Supporting 2020 regional election, Finance Minister has prepared 1 trillion rupiah. Good afternoon, viewers in Indonesia and Singapore. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from business, economic, and capital market sectors. With me, Clara Antawidjaja, and this is Market Headlines. And yes, viewers, we're going to start market headlines by looking at the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. So GCI opened at the level of 4,780, and then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index is on the level of 4,831.78. And then the index was showing strengthening trend by the second session's closing time. The index was closed at the level of 4,880.36. In short, GCI was strengthening at 0.53%. And next, we are going to see the sectoral movement leading the dynamics of today's trading. As the leader of the strengthening trend, we got finance that went up 1.8%. We got MISC industry that went up 1.2%. And next, as the leader of the weakening trend, we got agriculture that went down 1.71% and basic industry that went down 1%. And next, as the top gainers in today's trading, here's the list of the stocks for you. We got PBNI with a value that went up 6.18%. We got BMRI with a value that went up 4.26%. We got PTBA with a value that went up 4.82%. And BBTN with a value that went up 9.76%. In the other hand, meantime, the top losers of today's trading, we got Telkom with a value that went down 1.62%. We got Bogao with a value that went down 0.98%. We got KLBF with a value that went down 2.82%, and MDKA with a value that went down 1.14%. And next, we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. So rupiah opened at the level of 14,257, and rupiah was also showing weakening trend towards US dollar and was closed at the level of 14,180. In summary, rupiah was weakening at 1.27%. Infrastructure provider company Jasa Marga decided to distribute 110.36 billion dividends for shareholders. The total dividend is equal to 5% of the company's net profit in 2019.
Jasa Marga shareholders' annual general meeting decided to distribute 110.36 billion dividends. The total dividend is equal to 5% of the company's net profit in 2019. One of the considerations in dividend distributions that Jasa Marga is currently expanding toll road business and strengthening liquidity during COVID-19 pandemic. As stated before in company's report performance, in 2019, the toll roads operational contributed to a higher company's asset that inclined by 20.94% year-on-year, while the company has also successfully posted 14% EBITDA growth, reached 6.8 trillion rupiah. From all sources for IDX Channel.
In the annual general meeting of shareholders, commodity-based company Aneka Tambang decided to distribute 35% of its net profit in 2019 as dividends. The total dividends hit 67.84 billion rupiah.
Shareholders' annual general meetings of commodity-based company Aneka Tambang decided to distribute 35% of net profit in 2019 as dividends. The total dividends hit 67.84 billion rupiah. Meanwhile, the other 65% of company's net profit, or 126 billion rupiah, is allocated as retained earnings. According to the financial report in 2019, Aneka Tabang recorded a significant decline on net profit that slumped down by 88.1% to only 193.85 billion rupiah from the realization in the previous year at 1.63 trillion rupiah. The net profit decline led to a lower earnings per share to only 8.07 rupiah per share. From all sources for IDX Channel.
The delay of final investment decisions in Chandra Asri factory project made Barito Pacific decided to postpone a number of business plans in 2020.
Barito Pacific decided to postpone a number of business plans in 2020. The postponement leads to capital expenditure adjustment, which the company significantly trims the allocation to only $185 million from previous allocation at $525 million. Management of Barito Pacific explained that the capital expenditure allocation cut was most used for Chandra Asri plant construction project, around $135 million, while the rest of them for Star Energy, as much as $80 million. The management mentioned that the business plan postponement is based on the delay of final investment decision on Chandra Asri factory project, which was initially targeted to complete on 2021. And at the same time, the company also considers the delay of Star Energy's drilling program to 2021. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Stay tuned to market headlines because we will be right back after the break.
Tercatat 74,5 triliun rupiah, lebih rendah masih dibandingkan tahun lalu 30 April. Tahun lalu 30 April defisitnya adalah 100,3 triliun.
Bagaimana kondisi terkini dunia usaha pasca pandemi COVID-19?
Tentu kita harus realitas, di satu sisi isu kesehatan harus mendapat fokus dan harus bisa tertangani, tapi di sisi lain juga dunia kerja harus tetap berputar.
Pemerintah harus betul-betul hati-hati kapan memutuskan sektor ekonomi itu yang mulai reopening.
Pemerintah tengah menyiapkan skenario new normal atau tatanan hidup baru bagi masyarakat. ISG ditutup di zona hijau dengan mencatatkan penguatan lebih dari 2% ke level 4.871.228. PT Krakatau Steel Persero Tbk mencatatkan laba bersih untuk pertama kalinya dalam 8 tahun terakhir.
Industri pertambangan, saya melihat bahwa ya ini industri yang kalau dibilang unik ya. Resiko dan hasil itu tidak selalu sejalan. Kita sulit untuk mendapatkan ada penambang-penambang muda yang baru dan yang mau datang ke hutan untuk ketok batu lah. Istilahnya ketok batu untuk mencari tahu apakah ada tambang di sana. Efisiensi itu sesuatu yang harus selalu diperhatikan ya. Semua pengeluaran itu harus reasonable.
Welcome back. Ministry of Industry just recorded steep rise on manufacturing industry investment, whereas the increase hit 44% in the first quarter of 2020. The number went up 63.9 trillion rupiah from previously 44.2 in the first quarter of 2019.
Agus Gumiwang Kertasasmita, as the Minister of Industry, stated that there were 5 biggest investment value that had manufacturing industry investment inclined sharply by 44% in the first quarter of 2020. Whereas,
Those are following metal, electronic and machine, healthcare and optics, also watch, as much as 26.5 trillion rupiah. Next came from food and beverages industry as much as 11.6 trillion, the chemical and pharmacy by 9.8 trillion, non-metal industry by 4.3 trillion, up to rubber and plastic by 3 trillion rupiah. Despite significant increase on those sectors, processing industry went down to 2% from previously 4.8% in the first quarter of 2019. Meanwhile, national utility on average sector only posted 40% increase. This was considered as low because previously, especially before COVID-19 pandemic, the number was used to be in 75%.
Bahwa investasi sektor industri juga pada kenyataannya kenaikannya ada, pertumbuhannya ada. Namun demikian, ingin juga kami sampaikan bahwa rata-rata utilisasi industri nasional, ini rata-rata di semua sektor sebesar 40%. Ini merupakan sebuah angka yang sangat rendah, ya. Sementara rata-rata utilisasi industri nasional sebelum COVID-19 ada pada angka 75%, sehingga ketika itu confidence dari pihak industri, dari market sangat tinggi.
Minister also stressed the point that manufacturing industry is among sectors being prioritized to operate again under the new normal scenario. From Jakarta, Ade Firmansyah for IDX Channel. The industrial sector is a sector that currently contributes most to Indonesia's annual GDP growth. Although the manufacturing subsectors kind of has lost its momentum in COVID-19 pandemic, it is still constitutes the most popular subsector in Indonesia in terms of investment. Therefore, in the first graphic, I will show you the industrial sector investment as the years went by and also the current data about the first quarter. So let's see it through the next graphic. Through the graphic, we can see the industrial sector investment. Just 3 days ago, Ministry of Industry just released the data about the first quarter of 2020 that industrial sector investment hit 63.9 trillion rupiah, and it grew from the previous year in the first quarter of 2019 in 44.2 trillion rupiah. And if we take a look and if we take a major throwback to 2017, the number of industrial sector investment hit 274.8 trillion rupiah, while in 2018 it decreased to be 222.3 trillion rupiah and decreased again in 2019 to be 216 trillion rupiah. What is particularly interesting when looking at the ministry data is that the Indonesia's industrial sector investment in the first quarter of 2020 is better than the first quarter of 2019, despite the fact that the first quarter of 2020 there was an early coronavirus pandemic. And also ministry mentioned as well there are some subsectors that conquer the investment value in the first quarter of 2020. Let's see it through the next graphic, shall we? Through the next graphic, we can see that the Ministry Industry just gathered the data about 5 biggest investment value of industrial sector. First of all, the industrial metal, machine, electronic, healthcare equipments, optics and watches that contributes the investment of 26.5 trillion rupiah. And then moving on to the second biggest investment value in terms of industrial sector, we got food and beverages industry by 11.6 trillion rupiah contributions to the whole investment. And then the third one is that chemical and pharmaceutical industrial sector by 9.8 trillion rupiah. And moving on to mineral and non-metal industry by 4.3 trillion rupiah for investment, and also rubber and plastic industry that contributed trillion rupiah, and this whole data is gathered from the first quarter of 2020 by the Ministry of Industry. And of course, positive industrial sector performance mainly driven by the high increase in demand for the medical and pharmaceutical equipment industry, since Indonesia had to cover the needs to handle coronavirus pandemic and also to export some of the productions to other countries. And there are positive growth as well in the several factors of chemical industry, transportation equipment, metal industry, and also other. Good side, bad side. There were subsectors that had negative trend in the first quarter as well. Minister of Industry said that the process manufacturing sector slowed by 2.01% from previously of 4.8% in the first quarter of 2019. There are still other negative subsectors in industrial sectors. Therefore, in the next graphic, I would like to elaborate more on what is actually the problem that industrial sector must get through in the midst of pandemic. So let's see it through the data. Here it is. We can see industrial sector main problems during the COVID-19 pandemic, as it was delivered by the Minister of Industry 3 days ago. He said literally about the payment contract issued, because currently during the coronavirus pandemic there are contracts that are being postponed even to the next 2 years, or even cancelled. And the next one is that low demand and decrease of products utilizations. And the next one is regarding the expensive raw material. As I mentioned before, that the industry indeed product all of the things that needs to combat COVID-19, but however, to make a productions, of course, we have to gather the raw materials, but the raw materials is kind of expensive nowadays during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has a related issue with the logistic issues due to less transportations that make a late goods arrival because of the lockdowns and etc. And we have to admit that employees furloughed and laid off also play a big role as the main problems during the COVID-19 pandemic that caused industrial sector being hit so far. Actually, these kind of things are happening to most business lines since COVID-19 pandemic hit almost sectors. To safeguard the national economy against the COVID-19 pandemic, President Joko Widodo issued regulations in lieu law number 1 of 2020 on state financial policy and financial system stability for mitigations of pandemic coronavirus disease 2019. So let's see the detail in the next graphic. Through the next graphic, I will explain to you about the government regulations in lieu law number 1 2020, and it's regarding the government incentive during the COVID-19 pandemic, and most about the stability of economy. First of all, government arranged customs facility, and the second is that gradually decline the corporate tax income as well as the adjustment of the listed company tax income, and not to mention about the relaxations of tax administrations. And the good news is, government is specifically preparing more incentives for the industrial sector affected by COVID-19 pandemic. This strategic step is revive the enthusiasm of business sectors so it can drive the wheels of national economy by paying attention to health protocols. So let's see what are those to the next graphic. In the next graphic, we can see the government's additional incentives during COVID-19 pandemic, and it is regarding to industrial sectors. First of all, as we can see, relief of payments or electricity subsidies. Through this data, we can see that the minister has sent out a circular through the state-owned enterprise company, so-called PLN, to make a relief of payments, and the proposal is the form of abolishing the minimum cost of 40 hours electricity consumptions, including the premium industrial customers that consuming 233 hours of electricity. And this policy is proposed to be in charge in the 1st April to December 21st of 2020. And moving on to the second additional incentive, it's about additional tax incentive. As I mentioned before, that government has provided tax incentive, but there are more additional. By eliminating value-added tax or VAT for local raw materials export and postponing VAT for payments for 90 days without fines, and as well as temporary release of the Article of 25 income tax installment. And we can see the third point in here about credit restructuring and stimulus for working capital. And of course, by having this credit restructuring, there are several criteria that have to be fulfilled by the registrator, including the track record of taxes and credit installment, good business prospect, employment absorptions, and how heavy the company will get the impact of COVID-19, and also the use of domestic raw materials. And moving on to the fourth additional incentive, it's about eliminations of minimum payment per contract and payment on energy sector. So, energy sector has also the benefit of the incentive from the government. And as per decree of the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources number 8 of 2020, and this proposed the point of the abolitions of minimum payment per contract and payment in accordance with the amount of usage. And don't forget as well, the Ministry of Industry is obliging companies that have received dispensations license to continue operating through IMK license. Ministry also provides guidelines on of how factories should operate during the COVID-19 pandemic. And yes, viewers, we are hoping nothing but the best for industrial sectors to grow even more to help drive the wheels of the national economy even in the midst of pandemic. Stay tuned to market headlines because we will be right back after the break.
Kepada seluruh pemirsa untuk menyaksikan terus IDX Channel, saluran referensi untuk bisnis dan berinvestasi di Indonesia.
Tercatat 74,5 triliun rupiah, lebih rendah masih dibandingkan tahun lalu 30 April. Tahun lalu 30 April defisitnya adalah 100,3 triliun.
Sekarang atau tidak usah sama sekali. Awalnya, saya sangat tidak tertarik dengan saham. Yang membuat saya tertarik, yaitu saat saya mulai merasakan profit dari investasi. Akan tetapi, yang paling penting, saat saya mengerti dan saya memiliki harapan akan masa depan yang baik dari berinvestasi. Investasi adalah bagaimana kita bisa menunda kesenangan saat ini untuk kesenangan jangka panjang. Terlalu banyak generasi muda yang selalu menunda-nunda untuk berinvestasi dengan berbagai macam alasan. Langkah awal yang harus Anda lakukan adalah membuka rekening sekuritas. Dan hanya dengan 100.000 Anda sudah bisa mulai berinvestasi di pasar modal. Jangan tunda-tunda lagi, karena masa depan yang indah sudah menanti Anda di depan mata. Jangan menunggu untuk berinvestasi, akan tetapi berinvestasilah kemudian Anda menunggu hasilnya.
Pemprov DKI Jakarta yang memperpanjang masa PSBB sampai dengan bulan Juni.
Bila kita tidak disiplin, maka konsekuensinya kita bisa menyaksikan lonjakan kasus, dan bila itu sampai terjadi, gugus tugas DKI Jakarta tidak akan ragu untuk menggunakan kewenangannya, menghentikan kegiatan sosial ekonomi di masa transisi ini.
Welcome back. Indonesia's government and general elections commissions decided to keep carrying out the regional elections this year. As the early stage in supporting the 2020 elections, Finance Minister has prepared 1 trillion rupiah.
Indonesian government and House of Representatives agreed to carry out the regional head elections in 2020. In the work meeting with House of Representatives, Finance Minister Sri Mulyani ensures that the government is ready to support the election, especially on the additional budget. From the additional budget requirements submitted by the General Election Commissions, Sri Mulyani has agreed to immediately withdraw 1.02 trillion rupiah for the initial stage of the election process, which will begin on June 15. Sri Mulyani ensures that she will also continue to verify the data and files submitted by the General Election Commission so that the distribution of additional costs for simultaneous local elections this year can be carried out.
Maka kami memutuskan untuk memberikan yang tahapan atau sebesar 1 triliun seperti permintaan yang ada dalam KPU ini, dengan harapan ini tidak membuat proses yang menurut KPU atau menurut Kemendagri juga bahwa tahapan awal dimulai 15 Juni. Sehingga jangan sampai kemudian tidak ada keputusan karena kemudian tahap awalnya meleset.
Previously, the General Election Commission conveyed the need for additional local election budget this year of 4.77 trillion rupiah. This budget is divided into 3 stages. The first phase needs 1.02 trillion rupiah, then 3.29 trillion rupiah for second phase, and 460 billion rupiah for the third phase. Jakarta, Raharjo, IDX.
Ministry of Planning and National Development ensures that the various national strategic projects, including the constructions of the new capital city, will be continued. The minister emphasized that the project's continuations will create new working hours and multiplier effect to the economy.
Indonesian government ensures the continuation of national strategic projects, including new capital city development. Ministry of Planning and National Development stated that national strategic projects continuation as one of the ways to recover economy after pandemic. Minister of Planning and National Development Suharso Monoarfa say that the project's development will boost the economy and create new job fields due to large needs on raw material and workers, so that the multiplier effect to the economy will be bigger. Meanwhile, up to now, the government confirms that the new capital city project is in the finalization stage.
Jauh sekali dan lebih besar lagi kebutuhan dananya, dan itu pasti akan menarik para investor gitu untuk ikut berpartisipasi di sana. Sudah banyak orang yang bertanya pada saya kapan Pak Arso kita akan mulai, dan saya bilang kami sekarang sedang menyiapkan master plan, dan master plan mudah-mudahan dalam waktu dekat sudah selesai. Kemudian kami akan menyelesaikan undang-undangnya, dan ini akan menciptakan jam kerja yang luar biasa besarnya, dan dia punya efek berantai.
Although in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, the government is determined to continue completing the national capital project, but its development will not fully use state budget, but also cooperation with the private sector or investors. Jakarta, Raharjo, IDX Channel.
And a graphic close of our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic business and capital market channel. I'm Clara Antawidjaja. Have a nice evening and stay safe.
Halo, apa kabar Pak Eko?
Apa kabar?
Sehat?
Alhamdulillah.